NASA, do you read? This is Mr. G, Apollo mission. Hey, innovators. You caught me playing with my little rockets here. Today, we have an awesome project. We're going to be building small rockets made out of straws and paper, and we're going to be launching them using kinetic energy. We'll be creating these slingshot launchers that use rubber bands to create potential energy that then gets turned into kinetic energy, launching our rockets across. So, let's grab our materials and let's get to work. All right, time to start looking around the house. You're going to need some straws. You'll need some tape. I'm using some masking tape, but you can use Scotch tape or anything you have at home. You'll need some popsicle sticks, some rubber bands, a pair of scissors, and you'll need some fabric. In my case, I took a towel and I cut a small strip. You'll need some paper clips, and last but not least, a couple of sheets of paper or cardstock. All right, so innovators, now that we have all our materials, let's start to work. The first part of our project involves creating our actual rocket, which is going to be made out of a straw, a paper clip, and some tape. Now, we always want to be safe, and I'm going to show you a technique to create a soft end, so as you launch your rocket, you don't have anything too pointy being tossed as a projectile. All right, let's get to work. All right, so let's start off by clearing our workspace. And the first thing that we're going to do is cut some fins out. These are the fins that are going to help guide our rocket. So let's grab a sheet of paper and fold it into fours. There you go. And that looks good. Okay, now we're going to take our scissors and we are going to cut one 90-degree triangle, meaning it needs to have one right angle. Okay, that looks good. And all four fins should be the same. Perfect. Now, the reason you want your four fins to be exactly the same is because the four fins are going to be attached to your straw rocket. These fins are going to help stabilize it as it flies through the air and it's cutting through the wind. So we'll start by taping two. We'll set our straw down and we'll put one fin on each side of it. We'll then take our tape and we'll cut a couple of strips, and we're going to gently and carefully tape the straw and the fins. So you'll just lay the tape right across the straw and the fins like that. Okay, I'll take another piece and I will do the same on top. Now, it's okay if the tape overlaps. There we go. And we're going to take another piece and do the same thing on the other side. All right. Now, I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm just going to trim off any tape that is sticking out of the paper. Excellent. Now, we're going to do the other two. Now, for the next two, we're going to take a closer look. We'll grab our tape, and I'm going to cut a few strips. Now, this is going to be a little bit tricky because you want to make sure that the fins are straight and that they're all sticking out in different directions. So, you're going to carefully grab your fin and you're going to hold it up so that it's also forming a 90-degree angle. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, but try to get it as straight as possible. So I attached one piece of tape on one side, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other. Now, I would recommend working with small strips of tape. This is going to allow you to really get into those corners. Again, you want to make sure that you're forming as close to 90-degree angles as possible. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'll start with the strip of tape. I'll hold my straw rocket and I'll gently position my fin. As you can see, I'm holding the fin in between two fingers while I apply the tape. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. Let's put a piece of tape on the other side. Okay, that looks good. And let's take a look at it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, if your fins are a little bit too large, and in my case, I made them a little bit too big, we're going to take a pair of scissors and we're just going to trim all of the fins. I'm just going to trim a little bit more. But what I want to make sure is that all four fins are about the same size. That's the important part. Now, another reason that I included this step is because this gives you the opportunity to experiment with different fin shapes. This can change the way that your rocket flies through the air. So, try different things out. All right, I'm happy with that. Now, the next step is taking a paper clip. You're going to unfold it into an L shape, like so. Now, you're going to take the small part of the paper clip, the small hook, and you're going to bend it in just a little bit until the tip of it touches the rest of the paper clip. The reason you want to do that is you want it to form a hook. So now I'm going to take a little bit of tape and I'm going to wrap it around to secure it in place. You see, our straw rockets are going to be propelled by a rubber band. So they're going to need a hook to latch onto the rubber band. And that's what we're making now. That looks pretty good. I'm now ready to tape it on to the rest of my straw rocket. So I'm going to hold it in place, and it should be about ½ an inch from the top of the straw. I'm going to take a strip of tape and I'm just going to gently wrap it around. What I want to do is secure the paper clip to the straw, but I don't want to bend the straw, so be gentle. That looks great. Now, I'm going to take an extra piece of tape and I'm just going to secure the bottom part. And I'll gently wrap it around, again making sure not to bend the straw. If you're using a pencil instead of a straw, this is something you don't have to worry about. Now, I'm going to bend the hook just a little bit. You want it to have a nice angle that's towards the fins. Looks good. Now, the next step of our rocket is attaching a felt or cushioned tip. We want to make sure that as you launch your rocket, its tip is not sharp enough to hurt anybody. So, I'm taking a small strip that I cut from a piece of an old towel, and I'm just going to tape it on to the end of my rocket. Now, the trick is you want to make sure that this tip is as narrow as possible, so you want to make sure that you wrap it up tightly. What you don't want is to have a big bulbous tip, because you want your rocket to be as aerodynamic as possible, meaning as it flies through the air, it meets the least amount of resistance. So, if you have something that's tight like this, then your rocket is going to sail smoothly. All right. Okay, so now it's time to assemble the launcher. In order to do that, we're going to start with 2 rubber bands, and you're going to knot them together. Now, if you have 1 large rubber band, you don't have to do this step. All right, and you're going to take a popsicle stick, and you're just going to put the rubber band right at the tip. Now, holding it in place, you're going to take a strip of tape, and you're just going to put the tape over it. Now, you'll take your popsicle stick and you'll flip it over, and you're going to fold the piece of tape over. Now, what you want is the rubber band and the popsicle stick to be secure in between the piece of tape. This looks good. Now, I'm going to take another strip of tape and I'm going to put it over the same spot just to reinforce the popsicle stick. You have to remember, this is the launcher. This is what's going to be throwing your rocket. So you want to make sure that this is strong and secure. Now, I'll take one last piece of tape and I'm going to wrap it around the popsicle stick. Again, just to make sure that this is nice and secure. All right, give it a little test just by tugging the rubber band. There you go. All right, so innovators, the way that our little rockets work is that they get attached to this launcher, and when you pull back, the rubber band creates potential energy. It stores all of that, and as you release, that potential energy gets turned into kinetic energy, and the rocket sails through the air. Now, as the rocket's flying, it's going to encounter wind, and there's going to be wind resistance. And so you want to create the least amount of drag. And you'll do that by designing different fins that are going to allow it to slice through the air. You're also going to want to experiment with your nose piece. The more cone-shaped it is, the better. That means that your rocket is going to sail through the air, cutting through the air. So experiment with different shapes. Just make sure that you're always safe and that it's a padded material. So now let's try launching. Let's see how far I can shoot mine. All right, so I'm going to start off by taking my rocket, and you're going to attach it to the end of the rubber band. All you're going to do is put the hook through the rubber band, and once it's secure, you can pull back on your straw rocket. You see, the slingshot launcher is going to use the potential energy in the rubber bands to fling the rocket forward. Now, one important tip. As you launch, you want to make sure that the hand that you're holding your launcher with moves forward with the rocket. This is going to prevent it from getting caught on the launcher. Now, let's test it out. I'm going to attach my straw rocket. I'll pull back and I'll release. Very nice. Innovators and engineers, we are done building our rockets. This was an awesome and fun project that you could try out with friends and with your family. I urge you to see how far you can launch it. One great experiment you can do is each time see how far back you pull the rubber band, and then you can measure the distance that the rocket flies, right? And you can also experiment with different shapes, rocket shapes, to see if that improves your distance and flight time. This is an awesome project to use design thinking with. So remember, design thinking allows you to prototype, to test, and then kind of try that all over again. So safe flying, good luck with your launches. Make sure you're not pointing your little rocket at anybody. And thanks for watching. Remember to always think creatively and think critically. Thanks for watching, and make sure you catch the rest of the videos.